that looks good.
Stay tuned for the next video. We got some nice new tires and wheels for this truck. What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the story of the 2017 Toyota Tacoma that we picked up from Copart. We love this truck. We actually considered leaving this truck stock up until a couple of weeks ago. That's what we thought we would do. We've just been driving around. It's been running really good, but you know what? We got good friends to the channel like torchoffroad.com. So we decided to pick up a 3-inch lift kit for this truck. You just can't beat it. You can save 10% by clicking the link in the description or using the code Orange Wires. So why not do that? We picked up this lift kit, free shipping, same day shipping for $121. And this is going to be a how-to video. So let me show you what we got in the box. So we got a set of instructions and we're going to go down these step by step. It's really easy to do. A lift kit like this is perfect for the person that's going to take one of these things just through a power line right away or something. But the first thing you see here are the spacers that go on the front struts. And these are like 1.5 inches, but that's what they're supposed to be. Like everybody thinks that that's supposed to be 3 inches, but it's really not. It's just going to be about 1.5 inches to give you 3 inches of lift. We got 2 of those and all the nuts, bolts, and washers to put that stuff together. Then we've got a rear blocks. So this is like a 2-inch. We ordered a 2-inch for the rear. And that little taper that you see just ever so slightly, it'll go toward the front of the truck. So we got our spacers, and then we got our nuts and our washers for the new U-bolts that we're gonna put in. So that's pretty straightforward. And then we also ordered a differential drop because this is a 4-wheel drive truck, and that's gonna true up our axles just so that the angles of those are just right. This is also really easy to put in. The first thing we want to do before we get started, we want to measure the rake. We're going to measure the distance from the center of the wheel to the ground at the front and the rear. And that way we can tell how much we lifted the truck by. Let's go ahead and measure that now and see what it is. From the floor to the center of the wheel, straight up to the fender, 35 inches. So we can do the exact same thing at the rear. So basically 36 5/8 from the center of the floor straight up to the bedside at the fender flare. So what we want to do first is we want to jack the truck up, support it on the jack stands, get the front wheels off, take the sway bar end links loose, take the brake caliper off, and support it with a ratchet strap or maybe a couple of cable ties. We're going to take both sides of the sway bar end link off with the 17mm socket. And sometimes you have to hold it right here with something. Vice grips or something's always good. But it's got an Allen wrench here, a hex head. You can hold it here and use a wrench if you want to. When you go ahead and get both sides off, it lets you get the sway bar link out of your way. Using a 12mm socket, go ahead and take this brake line bracket loose. Using a 10mm socket, go ahead and take this bracket off for the ABS sensor. And using a 10mm socket, take this bracket off for the ABS sensor wire. Using a 17mm socket, go ahead and take this bolt and this bolt loose on the brake caliper, and then we'll use a cable tie or a couple of them to hang it up here out of the way. Just use a cable tie, kind of hung that out of the way for now. We're using a 19mm socket and another 19mm socket to hold it on that side. We got to take the lower strut mount loose, and then we got to take the 3 bolts on the upper strut mount loose. So we got one there, one there. Stay away from that guy. Do not touch that one. And then there's one in the back that you can't see. Leave this one alone and take the others out. And I'll just use a 14mm wrench to take these out. This is a pretty new truck. These bolts come right out, but would recommend a few days before you put your lift kit in, go ahead and spray all these bolts with PB Blaster or WD-40. So step number 6 is going to loosen this upper ball joint. So we're going to use a pair of needle nose to take this cotter pin out, and then using a 19mm, we're going to take that nut off, and then we're going to hit this steering knuckle right there really hard with a hammer until it separates. The whole time we'll support the lower control arm with the jack. Just take that cotter pin off because we're going to save it and put it right back on. The 19 takes that one right off. We're supporting the lower control arm with the jack. I always leave the nut on just a little bit loose. That way when we hit that with the hammer, this is going to catch it. Just a few taps of the hammer, it came loose. So we can use our jack to support it a little bit, because this is under tension. So we'll go ahead and loosen that up and take the steering knuckle loose. So you can definitely do it if you take your time. You can bring the strut right down through by the sway bar and right out through the rack and pinion. And then you got the strut right out. Time to put our blocks on. Put the block on like that because we're going to turn it 180 degrees from where it was. So it'll go back just like that on the truck, and everything will line right back up. So we use our existing nuts that we took off on these, torque them down good, and then we'll use the bolts and washers that come with these to bolt it back to the top of the strut tower. Everything is torqued down, so it's ready to go right back in, just like we took it out, right up between the ball joint going to the rack and pinion, and then right up beside the sway bar and right up into the shock tower. So you can see it went right back up in there. So now all we got to do is get our bolts and line them up top, fasten our strut back at the bottom. We're on our way. Using a 16mm wrench, go ahead and tighten up the 3 bolts using the washer and lock washer, and put a little Loctite on there if you want to. That way you don't have to worry about them coming out. So if you take your time, you can get the shock right back up through there, tighten that back up with the 19, and then you just gotta be gently and pull this down into the steering knuckle while you jack up that lower control arm just a little bit. Things to be mindful of is when you're doing this is be careful of the axle. Don't let it swing out too far. Everything will be good. And then keep this loose until you get everything back together, because you got to do the other side, so keep this loose. So now we'll go ahead and put the brake caliper back on, hook everything back up except the sway bar end link, and we'll move to the other side. So that completes all the steps 1 through 10. The only thing we got to do is tighten this back up, put our cotter pin back, and hook our sway bar end link back up after we get the other side done. Let's go ahead and move over to the other side and get all this done. It's just be a straight reverse, steps 1 through 10. We'll get all that put on, and then we'll move over and put the differential drop in and show you how all that goes, and then get the back put in, and this job will be done. So let's go ahead and move to the other side and get that side done. So step number 11 is actually repeat steps 1 through 10 on the other side, and we did all that. But there's a couple of things that we did do here. We left this loose so the sway bar could get out of our way, and you can take the tie rod ends loose. If you want to, it gives you just a little extra room. You don't have to, but you can do that. You can also take this sway bar completely off and get it out of your way, but you don't have to. So if you got the 4-wheel drive model, you're going to want the differential drop, and there's just 4 steps for that. You got to take the skid plate out. You got to remove the mounting bolts, just lower it down and put the washer in. It's got large spacers, so then you just got to torque everything back. This is really easy to do, but you got to get the skid plate off first. So to get that differential drop in, we got to get that skid plate off. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. This is really easy. It only takes just a second. And then it comes with some spacers to space out that skid plate and get everything nice. So we're going to go ahead and do that. We'll show you how to get it done. So the skid plate, it's got 4 bolts. It's got 2 at the back, and it's got 2 in the front, and they're 12 millimeter. We got the skid plate out. This is where the diff drop is going to go. It's going to go right here, and this is a 22, and it's got a nut up on the top side, right up in there. Really hard to see, but you got to take these off and let this scoot down on both sides. And then the diff drop comes with these little spacers, so you just put one in on both sides, and that's all there is to it. So we got those spacers all put in. It looks just like that. It's easy as pie. We did have to take and cut this off. So I trimmed this up right here with the cutoff wheel, just so it would fit just right. But everything's looking good. We're gonna put the skid plate back, and we got these 2 spacers that will go at the back right here on both sides to keep it from hitting right there. We completed the 11 steps to get the front of this truck lifted all up, and then we had 4 steps that we had to complete to get the differential drop all in place. That just leaves 9 steps to go to get the rear of this truck all lifted up. So we're going to go ahead and start with step number 1 and get this job done and let you know how it looks. Step number 1, shock the wheels. Step 2, lift the rear of the vehicle. Support with jack stands to remove the rear wheels. On these, I always do these just one side at a time. To use a 17 millimeter socket to take off the lower shock bolt. Using a 19 millimeter socket, remove the 4 U-bolt. So right here I use a jack stand to just kind of support the spring, and then I've got another jack stand sitting on the frame. So we're going to just lower this thing down, get us enough space right here to put in our block, and we'll get it put in with the taper towards the front. We'll have the block in, put our new U-bolts in. Step number 5, remove those existing U-bolts and lowered that spring down. Step number 6 is going to put this right back in there. We got our dowel all lined up on the bottom. Now we just got to jack it back up and get our dowel lined up on the top. We got that lined up, and then we'll put our new U-bolts in. Put our saddle back on, put our new nuts and our new washers. When you tighten these up, make sure you tighten them evenly. Get them all tightened down. Be sure and torque these bad boys. We'll go ahead and put the rear shock back in. Put the bolt back in for that. And this will complete step 6 and 7. We just need to tighten it back up with a 17mm. And that's how it all looks when you're done. The rear of these things is really super easy. So we will reinstall the wheel and tire, and we'll have this side done. Be sure and torque those U-bolts. Be sure and torque everything, really. If you got 1/2-inch bolts, they're 80 foot-pounds to each one. And that takes care of the one side. So let's go ahead and wash, rinse, and repeat. Do the other side. Then we'll measure this thing and see how much lift we got. Man, we got the kit put in. It was really easy. The 20 steps went flawlessly. This is a really easy kit to put in. If you remember before we started, this measurement was 35 inches up front. So we're going ahead and measure it again and see how much lift we got right up in the front. So from the floor to the center of the wheel, up to the fender flare is 37.5. So that's 2.5 inches that we lifted this truck. So this measurement, before we put the lift in, was 36 5/8. So we're gonna measure it again from the floor right up to the fender flare, and we're looking at 38.5. So 38.5, that's almost 2 inches. Those were 2-inch blocks. So with the tape measure up front, we got 2.5 inches, and at the back, we got 2 full inches. So that's pretty good. And that's easy enough. It just took 24 steps to get this lift kit put in. The front, the differential drop, and then the rear. It was really, really easy. If you're into off-roading and you want your Tacoma to have a good lift, we have put a lot of lift kits in a lot of trucks. This is the most simple one. It's a basic lift kit for $121. I don't think you could beat it anywhere. So check out torchoffroad.com/orangewires. Use the code orangewires at checkout. Save 10% on any lift kit. If you're looking for a simple one like this one, if you just hit that occasional power line right away, or if you're looking for a real off-road kit to do some serious off-roading, Torch has got you covered. Thanks for watching the video. A special thanks to all the subscribers. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram. We always post there before YouTube. Stay tuned for the next video. We got some nice new tires and wheels for this truck. Can't wait to show it to you. We'll catch you guys next time. We're out.